Good afternoon. Well, one thing is to come out to a place like this and talk about issues, and there are plenty issues. But I chose my life like a decade ago. I chose to be one of the people that will build instead of just criticize. So I'll be talking to you about one initiative that will help in building this nation. I call it the Enterprise Nation. I will go through this by sharing with you what I term the Enterprise Nation. Why is it important that we have this nation? Where should we look if we want to build this nation? How are we going to build this nation? Who are the people that will build the nation? When do we start building this nation? And then you can make your conclusions thereafter. What's the Enterprise Nation? I believe I have done quite a great study of those successful nations that people want to travel to, either to go live, work, or vacation in. And I've come to realize that there are basic things that make them what they are. They are basically productive places. So an enterprise nation is a productive place. Like the Chinese have done in the last 3 decades. They've turned their nation to a very productive place, producing things for everybody, whether you're from the West or you are from Africa, and making things of different standards for everybody. American standard, European standard, no Nigerian standard. It's basically Akpo Kentebe standard, because when I enter China, I say, make it like this for me, and they will make that for me. Or Chukudi standard. You enter China, that's what they'll make for you. Productivity is key to an enterprise nation. Innovation. We can start by copying, and there's nothing wrong with it. Don't, even as an individual, don't say if the thing doesn't have an innovative tilt to it or an innovative bend to it, you won't do it. Don't disturb yourself. You can always start by copying what others have done. But as you go along, innovation gives you a hedge, that barrier that would ensure that not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can come into your sphere. It is important for that nation to have a set of work ethic. It's easier for me to say it now, to understand it a whole lot better now that I have to employ people. People will come to work, or people will be at their workplaces, and they do all manners of things totally different from those that will make your enterprise productive. And without that productivity, you don't have the right income to ensure that you meet all obligations. Workers might feel that obligations that are important to the business are only that of paying salaries. No, there are so many stakeholders, of which workers are some, suppliers are some, customers make a part, creditors make a part, the shareholders themselves make a part, because if a shareholder continuously pays everybody and he doesn't pay himself, when the time comes, he's going to run away from that business, and then the workers will start complaining. So The work ethic part is very important, and these are some of the things that we have to deal with in this nation. We need a sound legal system. That is the only part that the government has to do. Legal system and security. Why? Because if I'm going to take, if anybody's going to invest money in my business, the man has to be sure that if there's a dispute, he can go somewhere. Without it, we can't move on. I'll make a case of the United Arab Emirates, Dubai. They set up a specific space, which you guys call Dubai today. You know, a specific space in Dubai, and they brought in the British common law and brought in a judge that understood that law to administer that space. And the money that came to that environment was a whole lot more than what came to sub-Saharan Africa in a particular period. That and security is all that the government has to do. They don't have to build roads and all those things that we are particular about. This government is not working. They're not building roads. They're not building railroads. Who built the places that we all travel to? No. It's the entrepreneur that takes those things up as problems and challenges that need solution. And we must deliver on those things. Let the people deal with let the government deal with issues that have to do with legal system and the security. Why is it important that we must have these enterprise nations? There are benefits basically that come with it. If there is a whole lot of prosperity around this nation, I am sure you will see a number of changes. So there's economic wellness. When a number of us become really prosperous, political wellness will follow suit. We do not necessarily have political inclination, but entrepreneurs will, one way or the other, be particular about the people that rule the spaces where they are. You have no choice. And then the more the gathering of entrepreneurs, the more their interest that they must protect, the more they will have to go out and ensure that the people that rule the spaces where they are not just whatever, people that don't have an understanding of policy formulation and monitoring. So there will be political wellness. There would at some point be environmental wellness, because entrepreneurs can do all manners of things just to meet the bottom line. But the people in government also would have to keep them in check. The people they've become more aware these days, unlike before. If we see anything in this room, before I get back to my seat, my wife will most likely know. If somebody just takes something and puts it on a BB or puts it on social media, you know. So there are a number of things that we could do before that you cannot do now because of the advancement that we have. When there is money to take care of certain things that you need, take care of your obligations, there will be mental wellness, physical wellness, social wellness. You would see even in the sort of cars people drive and all of that, the infrastructures that will follow up based on something that has been developed by one of us here or one of us outside. Workplace wellness as well. If, however, we don't do these things, $70 billion revenue to be shared by a growing population. I don't even know Nigeria's population now. It keeps growing. At some point, they said it was 140 million. As we speak now, they will tell you it's 160 something million. They say it's 170 million. By 2020, they say it will be 200 and something million. And since I left primary school, we have not added any new source of income. In 20 years, there will be possibly another 70 million Nigerians aged between 0 and 20. So without a new source of income, what will happen? From 5,000 people to one job, like one of the speakers said, you will be having, I doubt that 5,000 people to one job. Heard of a job that they were applying for in Lagos. It was a whole lot more than 5,000 people to one job. But very soon, you'll be having 20,000 people to one job. There'll be depression and illnesses. They say there are no depression cases in Nigeria. I really doubt that. But there'll be more widespread depression and illnesses. There'll be wide-scale poverty. I get to travel around this country a great deal. So I see all manners of things. So when some people say they are poor, and me, I know poor people, you know, I've seen some really poor cases. I say, oh, if only you move to this place, you will see poverty, you know. There will be serious poverty. Then, by the time Obasanjo dies, you'll be talking serious economic debt. You will be back where we came from, owing close to $40 billion. We'll be back there because the people have grown. You don't have new sources of income. Things still have to happen, and you have to share everything with the people. There will be wars, not one. Everybody in Nigeria feels if only we can separate north-south. It will not be one. After the first one, there will be multiple because the tribes are not monolithic. However, that will not happen. That is why people, those of us in this room, and some others that are not in this room, must work facing the things that we must do, and we will bring wellness to this nation. There are a few nations I would like to show you. I've tried to capture the top 10 nations in the world. I'm not an economist, but this journey has made me to go into certain studies of understanding things like PPP. It's not public-private partnership. It's purchasing power parity. You see the sort of income or GDP that nations have, and they can say it's nominal, or they try and compare them across other nations. That is $1,000 to a Nigerian. What can that $1,000 do for the Nigerian? Compared to $1,000 to the American, what can it do? Maybe your $1,000 in Nigeria might just be worth $5,000 in America. It's just a possibility. Because first, you would have bought this for the month, you would have bought that for the month, you would have bought that and all of that. They've been able to do those analyses for different nations. They say the $2,000 to the Chinese is like $20,000 to the American. That means what the $2,000 can buy for him, an American will need like $20,000. So they are doing real comparisons now instead of saying $1 to $1, you know. So these are the top 10 nations in the world. And for a long time, Nigeria has always been in different classes. So now the latest class is mint. That's our new class. Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. So I started studying these nations. And I said, what are the comparisons? Because Nigeria was in a class in the 60s. The people that were old enough will tell you, they were rating us with like South Korea. But now they can't rate us with South Korea again. Those guys have just gone. We still seem to be here. Now they are rating us with mints, Mexico, Indonesia, Turkey. Since we couldn't make brink, and they ended up becoming BRICS. You understand? Brazil, Russia, India, China. Instead of it becoming Brazil, Russia, India, Nigeria, China, it became BRICS. They wanted to put an African country there. So they said, okay, where are the best places to invest money now? So Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. So I said, okay, let's look at this table. You would agree with me that on that table, we seem to be lagging behind. True or false? True or false? Meanwhile, with population, we are not, we are somewhere in the middle. Right? But you know, when I see tables like this, you know what happens to my heart? Never depressed. I just become very happy. Why am I so happy when I see tables like this? The people that were before us decided that a generation of Nigerians were coming behind them and they were going to leave everything for us to do. Because if they have done it, we would all have ended up working in their firms. It would have been very difficult. The barriers would have been so high. Where do you want to start from? I'll give you an example. I have a brilliant idea now, so I'm going to set up a cement factory. When a group has 20 million metric tons, where am I going to start from? In 2002, there were only 2 million metric tons of cement manufactured in Nigeria. In 2013, there are 28.5 million metric tons manufactured in Nigeria. One group has 19.5 million. So where do I start from? If every sector in this nation had been covered along those areas, no matter how brilliant I am, I would have ended up a consultant. So I'm happy. They just did not do it. So they give me an opportunity to write my name as one of the builders of this nation. Basically, it's also open to those of us here. Currently, oil makes up everything that we make in this nation. A few things must not happen to oil. The Western powers must not find an alternative to it. If they find an alternative to it, at this moment now, there will be poverty. But most likely there will be no war. Everybody will go to their villages and call village meeting, and Nigerians will become more religious, really. But there will be no war because there will be nothing to fight over. That one I am sure of. Because if you look at this table, if you look at the next table, the next chart that I have, it shows that basically what we are spending in this nation is just oil money. That shows you a part of the federal government's stake of our oil wealth, which is just slightly around 50%. And if you look at it, oil is huge, plus that which they save in what they call excess crude accounts. It's about 2/3 of everything that comes in. If it is about 2/3 of everything that comes in, your guess is as good as mine where the company income tax also comes from. It should be from the oil companies, largely. True or false? Plus a few other multinationals. So if that oil is just out of space, then finally maybe the solution to our problems would have evolved, because we would have to go back. That just shows you where we are presently. Where should we be looking? There are two classifications for places to look. I believe we must look at the resources that we have, and there are 3 classes of resources: the land and water, the minerals, those that are buried, and there are human resources. Then we must do a need analysis. I teach my son simple things. We were in Obalinde one day, and I said, stand up and look around. And he looked around and I said, how many people can you see? He says, there are thousands of people. I said, what can you provide for them? 5-year-old. He says, Daddy. I said, what do they need? He says, houses. I said, 1. So what do they need? He says, food. I said, 2. So what do they need? He says they need water. Those are basic things. So let's look in the areas of need. And then let's look in the area of the resources that we have. What must we do? If we become a productive nation, that $70 billion can still be $70 billion or a little more, but instead of it being close to 80%, it will now be 20%. And when those ones are there, we will no longer be fighting to go anywhere, to Abuja or anywhere, because in your own enclave, you are busy and you are doing things and you are adding to the bottom line. Who are the people that will build this nation? There are 2 classes of people. There are people that I call the lions. They have 3 broad characteristics. They are deep visionaries. They have uncommon vision. Someone says that by 2020, 200 million people, even if you were to import the refined products, you have no facilities to receive them. So I'm going to build a refinery. So I'm going to borrow over $4 billion to build that refinery. They are empire builders. They are not. They don't do it for the money. If it is money, at some point you seem to have enough. But they want their names on everything. Every new thing that you call a problem, they see an opportunity to overcome. They don't give up. However, the beautiful thing is, these lions amongst us, they will be very few. If I tell you, if you count out of 200 million, you won't find 100 of them. They will, with the multinationals, make up 40% thereabout of our economy. They are very important, but they cannot work alone. Give you an example. Some company that I know that sells noodles. I see their trailers all over. Plus the cement trailers. I see the trailers all over as I travel around Nigeria. But if the trailers are moving around and no Hausa man to sell at the street corner, what will happen to that big company? So we have the other class of people. And no pun intended, the ants must be deeply focused. Don't try and do everything. 7 years of your life will run by while you are running between fashion and all that. Just take one area of life. Solve, provide a solution, and give to the people. And then thereafter, you have resources to employ people to stay focused on that area while you are building another area. You must be determined. You must be passionate about it. And like I said, just focus on one sector of life. Now, when will this thing start? Are they going to say, let's get into a race and line up and blow a whistle? When will we start this journey? This journey has started. I just told you in 2002 there were only 2 million metric tons of cement that was being made. In 2013, 28.5 million metric tons of cement is now being produced in Nigeria. The company that makes 19.5 million says 5-year plan, 100 million metric tons. Same company in so number of years, 400,000 barrels of crude will be refined. The whistle will never be blown, but people will take off at different points. I call you to join me. Thank you very much.